Born into aristocracy, which to be clear is my favourite version of the chicken or the egg dilemma. Aristotle was, as everyone knows, an ancient Greek philosopher. Now, other than being one of the only Greek philosophers not to go bald, what did Aristotle actually do? Well, that's a tricky question. See, when we talk about Aristotle, we're often looking at him as though he magically spawned into the modern world, which, apart from first being shocked to see that humans no longer own slaves, he would likely be surprised to learn that anybody knows about his teachings at all. In fact, Aristotle's work was so controversial at the time, he was considered an enemy to the state and had to flee Athens, although this was, one, self-imposed, and also just a result of the fact that he was so close to the now dead Alexander the Great. So what was it that made Aristotle so unpopular? Well, as a philosopher, Aristotle had a rather intense opinion on politics, which can make anybody unpopular nowadays. He believed politics was supposed to make humanity flourish. Okay, so far so good. He also believed that the only way to achieve moral excellence was if we all worked as a community. Well, again, that's great. How could that ever be? He also believed that he deserved to own slaves because they had lesser souls than him. He believed the same thing about women and thought both women and minorities shouldn't be allowed to vote. Yeah, you see, Aristotle basically thought, well, giving rights to every person doesn't include those people because they're not people. Which also just so happens to be the same philosophy used by the founding fathers of America when they were writing the amazing Constitution. Back to Aristotle though, his biggest gripe was with how the government should actually be ran and who should be chosen to run the government. He campaigned for an aristocracy, which proves all you weird people who believe the chicken came first absolutely and emphatically wrong. Now, Aristotle also believed that if there was a democracy, which he didn't want there to be, but if there was one, it could not be ruled by the majority, for the majority, in Aristotle's eyes, was stupid and couldn't be trusted to make the right decisions. I mean, for as bad as this sounds, Aristotle did likely believe this because of his great mentor Socrates, who was executed by a democratic process, also known as a jury, which Aristotle did not like because Aristotle is a hypocrite, but not that hypocrite, that's somebody different. What it was that Aristotle really wanted, with all these crazy beliefs, was stability. He believed democracy was an unstable form of government, as you could have, 7 prime ministers in 10 years, just a hypothetical. And Aristotle thought it was better to have a stable monarchy than an unstable democracy. Which, if that sounds like he's supporting tyranny, he doesn't, because he believes that a president could be as much of a tyrant as a king. In a way, he's probably right. Most political philosophers of the day believe that there should be some sort of utopia. They believed that everyone should sit in a circle and sing Kumbaya, because wouldn't that be so great? Aristotle, however, wanted to be different, because of course he did. I mean, we've all seen that painting of him and Plato, where Plato's just trying to teach all his students about God and pointing up to the sky, and Aristotle's like, no, I'm going to keep you down to earth, because that's how you should be. I mean, this just shows how much Aristotle and Plato differed from each other. Plato was Aristotle's mentor. He had grown up looking up to Plato. There are always going to be Platonic influences in Aristotle's works, and anyone who studied Aristotle's work will then just as much have Platonic influences in their work, and even Socratic influences from Socrates. Aristotle was different though, and he believed in pragmatism. He didn't like the idea of, the world's going to be perfect one day, because he doesn't live in that world. He saw it as, right now we live in this world, and we need to do the best with what we have now. He didn't believe it was realistic to think there would ever be a utopia, which shows despite all his wisdom, Aristotle could not predict the building of Milton Keynes. It's actually quite funny when you look at Aristotle's works because he had this weird obsession with discrediting Plato. I mean, he actually wrote his whole political philosophy book as a direct attack on Plato's book, The Republic. But it's okay for Plato because he's probably up in his world of forms right now laughing at Aristotle. Unless Aristotle was right, which is just as possible. In which case, they both better hope that the highest form of good includes owning slaves, being elitist, and letting your own emotions after your father/grandfather died dictate the next century of political thought in Europe and parts of Asia. And that's the thing. Aristotle was, at his core, a flawed man who was an exact byproduct of his environment. He is literally the aristocracy in human form. Being from a noble family himself, he assumed that his nobility must have come from some sort of divine virtue, rather than what was right in front of him. luck, which is ironic for the man who is so often dubbed the father of empiricism.